Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce our first speaker. So let's get this party started. Our first speaker is Aaron Thompson. He's the general partner at Success Hacker. He's the guy with the donkey. I'm sure he can explain what the donkey means. Probably a unicorn, is it, or something? It is. He's one of our sponsors. I've just completely destroyed his logo. So Aaron's based in Portland, and he's been working in CS for over 8 years with various tech companies. He's also a co-founder of RevDev and Portland Customer Success. So Aaron's going to come up, and he's going to challenge us with how much should customer success sell. So I think this is one of the most debated topics that one can sort of pick. So what number, if any, should an effective CS team hold? So I'm going to welcome up Aaron, and please use Slido as Aaron is talking to raise any specific questions. So I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to welcome up Aaron up on stage.
Here we go. Run around the whole room doing that with everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I came a long ways to be here. I'm super excited. I love to get to go around the world and speak with people about customer success. Is this too loud? Am I talking too loud, or is it just me? We good? You're like, stop yelling at this guy. Jeez. So let's see. Before we get started, I wonder if everybody would be willing to stand up, come together, so we can do a selfie here and document what's going on. I mean, are we good with this? Come on, stretch out. Let's do it. Wake up a little bit. Little energy in the room. It'll be good for all of us. Let's see. Yeah, this is gonna work great, guys. I can tell. Come on, bring it in. Bring it in. Yes. When I was in Tel Aviv last year in April, I tried to get everybody to do this, and they were like, no. They still did. Most of them did. There was a few that wouldn't. All right, you guys are champs. Thank you very much. Let's see. You see yourself in there? Oh, come on. Big smiles, big smiles. All right. Yes, there we go. All right. Thank you very much. You guys are rock. All right, I'm done. All right, have a good day. So as earlier alluded to, my name is Aaron Thompson, and if we're all looking at ways to have people hear us about customer success and the value that we add in the organization, hopefully I'll give you a few tools for you to use as you go back to your respective companies. Let's see. I worked in support my whole life. Every job I've ever had has been customer facing, all the way back to 14 years old. And most recently, before getting into a true customer success role, I was in support and running a fairly large team of technical account managers at a company called Jive Software. And then there was a little early stage startup that had a churn problem. They had a 40% year-over-year churn problem and unsurprisingly couldn't grow. New CEO came in and hired me to come in as the new head of customer success to fix the churn problem. And I got there on day one, and this is a true story. I pulled out my computer, I went to Google, and I typed in, what is customer success? And that moment changed my life. When I learned everything there is about this industry, I'm not a student, guys. I was an athletic kid. I had like a bunch of different majors in university. I was kind of a train wreck, sort of fell into my career. But when I found customer success, I felt like I was home. And the more I learned about it, the more I read about it, I developed a strategy, I implemented it. In 12 months, I took that 40% churn rate down to 8% and had an overall lift of 30% on the overall top line revenue of the business. At that point, I thought, wow, I'm really onto something. That's when I went out and became an entrepreneur, founded Portland Customer Success, and eventually I met my business partners, Todd and Andrew, who are the founders of Success Hacker. This is a unicorn. We firmly believe that anyone can be a unicorn. You just need the right tools. Sometimes those tools aren't necessarily what you would expect. And so I am ecstatic to be here. The thing I love about customer success the most is the people. People who are attracted to the customer success industry are generally people, and I'm a person bird. I was a sociology major. I'm fascinated by people, and I love to get to connect with people all over the world through customer success. Now that's my career, but this is my life. That's Henry. He's about 9. Is he about 9? Yeah, he's 9. And this is Simba. He just turned 6. So now, in dog years, Simba's the old man in the house. I'm 41. He's 42. Not a math major, but I think that works out. Let's see. This is what takes the majority of my attention in my life, and your customers are exactly the same. They're holistic people. Customer success is about the human. That's where it differs from account management, where your allegiance lies with the account. With customer success, your allegiance lies with the person and making them successful. And when you do that, you can unlock exponential growth to your organization, and I'll show you a few ways, and hopefully get your wheels turning on some things that you can implement at your own organizations when you go back. Harry Potter, dude really likes Harry Potter. That was Father's Day a few years ago. This one here was the Kentucky Derby, the horse race. You guys familiar with that? Does that even get broadcast over here? Okay. A few years ago, I wanted to show Henry the dangers of gambling. So we took his allowance for that week, and we went to the horse track, and we bet on the Kentucky Derby, and what do you think happened? Yeah, of course, he won. Yeah. So now I'm sure I have a degenerate gambler on my hands. Okay, so what's in it for me? Why should you guys listen to me for the next 20 to 30 minutes? And then I think we've got some Q&A. We'll see how long this goes. I've never done this talk this way before. I've been talking about this revenue generation framework for a couple of years now, but I've never been here doing this before, so we'll see how it goes. Well, first and foremost, in short, you should walk away with increased alignment with your pre-sales acquisition side of your business. And I'll give you a real visual way of how that's going to happen, hopefully. And then expansion. This should drive your ability to expand your current accounts through a less invasive way than the farm and hunt model that we're so familiar with. I'd like to kind of reposition it maybe in your minds to more of a passive way of identifying opportunities to grow your accounts through more of a detection. And we'll talk about what that looks like. And then ultimately, we'll talk about how to save capital at the top of your funnel. And when we save the capital, grow the revenue, that's what unlocks the exponential growth from your customer asset that you may hear all over the place. So 5 main questions that I'd like you to answer for yourself over the next 20 minutes or so. First off, how much should customer success sell, first and foremost? And we're going to go through these one by one and be thinking about it for your own organizations. Next, what number, if any, should your customer success organization hold? We hear this a lot in the industry. I fly all over the world meeting people in customer success, and we always talk about wanting to be at the revenue table. Why can't we get at the revenue table? Sales and marketing at the revenue table, we feel like the little kid at the revenue table. Yes, we are a more immature industry than them. We haven't been around as long as them, but we are the impetus for the exponential growth of the future. Any recurring revenue business has to do it through customer success, and so we should be holding a number. The question is, what number? And again, hopefully I can get you to start spinning your wheels a little bit, thinking about this for your own business. How may selling affect the relationship with the customer? I get this one a lot. Well, we don't want our CSMs to sell because that's going to taint the relationship. I don't want them to see my CSMs as a salesperson. We'll talk through that and why that actually isn't the case or shouldn't be the case. And if it is the case, you've got a bigger problem than just selling through customer success. What is a customer success qualified lead, or a CSQL? This is a new concept in the industry, and it's actually still being defined. And so I'd like to get your input on Slido maybe. This would be a good thing for us to talk collaboratively about. What is a CSQL? I'll give you a couple different ways that I see it working in your land and expand funnels and your business growth strategies, but it's like the Wild West. We're still defining the best practices of this thing that is customer success, which I love so very much. And then finally, exponential growth, and how do we unlock that? So let's start with the first question. How much should customer success sell? Before we jump into that, let's talk about where does customer success live in the enterprise? So this is a typical land and expand sales funnel. I'm sure you've probably seen things like this. This was actually developed in this version from that company, RevDev, that Peter mentioned that I founded a few years ago. I worked with a marketing expert and a sales expert to come up with specific plays and playbooks that you can do through your customer life cycle to preserve capital, lower your acquisition costs, speed up your deal times, et cetera. So up at the top in the red, you see demand generation and awareness. That's your marketing spend. That's your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. And then in the middle there, you see the green. That's your sales team, shepherding the customer through the evaluation process and eventually making a decision to become a customer. So you market to a whole bunch of people, and then over time, that gets down to less and less people, and some subset of those original targets do become customers. I mean, if they don't, I guess we're in serious trouble. And then down here at the bottom is where we live. Activate. Take the customer through a frictionless onboarding experience with the lowest time to value as possible. Optimize. Get them using all of the stuff that they're paying for in all the best ways so that they don't have any shelfware and they're using industry best practices, et cetera. And then renewal. If we do that effectively, if we are sure, if the customer is sure that they know how they're realizing the value, they know they're achieving their desired outcome, and they're doing it with you through a more frictionless experience than your competitor, that will lead to renewal. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, okay? So this is where we live. Up on the right side, we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, but that's advocacy. That's typically now starting to be seen as a CSQL, and I'll help explain that. And then up on the left side, you can see ICP there. That's your ideal customer profile. It's our responsibility to know which customers are perfect, which customers are a bad fit, and who's kind of a stretch in the middle. And we need to work with marketing to help them refine who we target in our marketing efforts. That's how we can unlock the exponential growth, because we can preserve the capital while still building and expanding the revenue at the bottom. So if you do this effectively, what you should see in your organizations is something along these lines. You should have a higher marketing return on investment. If you guys are marketing to the exact same targets today as you were a year ago, you're missing a golden opportunity to refine that target and be more efficient with that spend. Your sales cycle should go down. If you're doing the advocacy correctly, notice how it comes in the middle of the funnel. What that means is we don't have to market to the customer at the top. We save that acquisition cost, or actually it's 1/13 the acquisition cost. And then what that does is drives a faster sales cycle, because you're getting to shortcut it, if you will. And then on top of that, you actually close a higher rate. So that's a higher increased conversion rate of the leads that are brought to you from the customer asset. That's the golden ticket of customer success, guys. That's where we start to really generate revenue, is not through the expansion of our current accounts. It's through making our customers, those people, so wildly successful that they bring us their colleagues, their meetups, their friends, family, etc. Okay? And then customer acquisition cost will go down because we are able to narrow that target, as I said, and then the lifetime value of your customers will go up. If you're creating advocates, you don't have to worry about churn. Someone who's bringing you their friends, family, colleagues, etc., isn't leaving your organization, okay? Everybody with me? Are we still awake? You're like, oh my God, it's too early, dude. Okay, so let's talk about how we should affect revenue. First and foremost, obviously, we need to retain the revenue that we are provided, right? That's the table stakes. That's the low-hanging fruit. And about 5 years ago, when I started getting into customer success and developing my own strategy, that's really what we were talking about. How do we retain the customers that we get? And we were quoted on that, and that was where we were getting bonuses. And yes, the majority of the revenue lives post-sale. We own 90% of the revenue on average in most organizations compared to net new sales because of the recurring revenue model that most of our businesses run. So that's absolutely important. But next, what we want to do is make that kitty a little fatter, right? We want to grow that account. And how we do that is super important. This hunter-farmer model, fertilizing the farm kind of concept, I believe is a bit too intrusive for your customer. It doesn't align your customer success manager's actions and incentives with what's actually best for the customer. If we all know that customer success can be formulated with CS, customer's definition of success, equals CO, the customer's desired outcome, plus CX, the customer's desired experience, we need to be maniacal about that CO in the middle. That desired outcome is what they care first and foremost. I hate to break it to you, but they don't care about your product. They don't care about your services. They don't care about your company. If they could choose, they wouldn't have you in their life. They don't pay you money because they want to. They pay you money because you alleviate that desired outcome. You deliver the objective. And what we need to do is make sure we are aligning what we do collectively with pre-sales so that we are maniacal about delivering and then demonstrating that desired outcome. CSQL, so this is the new one. This is kind of making its way through the industry. And where I see it a lot is that advocacy play. When you can create a frictionless experience for your customers to bring you net new leads, those are considered oftentimes a customer success qualified lead. And that's where, again, that's the golden ticket, if you will. That's the ideal situation. But I'm going to come back and speak a little bit more about that as we go on, so I want to keep moving. And then ICP, I talked about that. Ideal customer profile, helping marketing to narrow that target, okay? All right, so how much should customer success sell? That's a pretty hairy question, and it's going to be related to whatever our answers are in the next 4 as we continue through. I need some water. Is there any chance I can get that? Okay, thanks, Peter. Okay, number 2, moving on. What number, if any, should customer success hold? Let's unpack that a little bit. Okay, so when we go back to the model and we look at how this plays out, how I believe we should be quoted relative to a number, holding a number, okay? If we want to be, thank you very much, if we want to be at the revenue table with marketing, with sales, being credited with growing the business, getting the word out about customer success in our organizations, we need to hold a number. And it's got to be based on something. And it should be a blended number, as I believe. So here's how I think it should play out. And please think about this, and I'd love to have conversations about this with you all throughout the day. First and foremost, we need to be quoted on gross revenue retention, GRR. That's that revenue, that's that kitty hanging on. That's the table stakes, that's the bottom line. If we can't hit a certain renewal percentage, we as leaders should get fired. That's what I did at Fortel when I became the first head of customer success. I told the CEO, if I can't take this 40% churn rate down to an industry acceptable 10 or less, then let me go. And luckily, within 12 months, again, I had it down to 8%. That's not a quote, or that's not a variable compensation. That's a quota. That's a stick, not a carrot. And I believe that's our baseline. That's not what we should be ultimately held accountable for, or it is what we should ultimately be held accountable for, but it's not how we will get all of our variable compensation. I don't think that there even should be a commission associated with gross revenue retention. Now, when we look at net revenue retention, so this is the expansion, I believe we should have a small commission percentage associated when we do this. When we can make a customer successful enough that they want to use more of our stuff or buy a new thing, that expands the account. And we should get some of that because what that means is we delivered their desired outcome. And we did it in a way that they realized. That's the thing, is the realized value from the customer is what will drive that. And we need to be detecting opportunities where they have real pain points and real objectives that we have solutions to, but we don't want to get too high of a commission percentage because now I start actively prospecting my customers. Now I'm actively farming through those customers as opposed to just sort of passively detecting and asking those open-ended questions to identify, oh yeah, we do have something that can help you with that, okay? So we get a small percentage of the overall commission, a small slice. Sales gets the lion's share. They get the higher percentage of commission because what that does is incentivizes them to bring in quality customers, signed good fit customers that we know will renew first off and then have opportunities for expansion. And again, this is same people, different product, different tool, different thing, not a net new customer. This is the same customer either using more, going through an increase in price, or buying something new from you, okay? Now we look into the CSQL. This is where I think we should get the lion's share of the available variable compensation. So if we make a customer so wildly successful that they talk about us at their meetups, we help them be a thought leader in their space. We provide them a platform through the services and products that we offer to be promoted and seen as a leader in their world, they're going to bring us net new customers. And when they do that, that's a shining example of exactly what we want to do in customer success, okay? So if we are bringing in customer success qualified leads, it means that we have aligned to the customer's desired outcome in such a way that they're willing to work with us in what I'll call later a collaborative selling environment. That's ultimately what we want. We want to be selling out of our customer asset, not continuing to fill the top of the funnel and driving up our acquisition costs, okay? So we get the higher commission percentage on that, and sales would get the smaller percentage of whatever that variable compensation would look like. Everybody with me? I talk fast. I talk a lot. It's early. Oh, by the way, I got to see the sunshine today for the first time in London. I've been here 3 times. That's the first time I saw the sun. I took a picture of it. It was awesome. Yeah, it's a beautiful day out there. All right, moving on. So then this is a very sort of out there idea, right? Now we're just spitballing. You guys can tell me I'm crazy. But I also believe that we should get some variable compensation when we can help drive up the percentage of marketing qualified leads, or MQLs, and sales qualified leads, SQLs. So if we can learn from churn and learn from renewal and do it all down here so well that we surface those customer stories back up to marketing and we refine the target of who we market to, and now all of a sudden we're getting a higher return on our marketing investment, meaning more quality leads are being found out there in the world, we could get bonused on that because we're actually preserving capital, okay? Makes sense? All right, so what number should customer success hold? Well, it should be a blend. There is no number just by itself. You need to take these ideas and whatever others that you would have back to your organization and come up with some sort of blended number that's a combination of retention. Yes, we must hit a certain retention percentage, and you can figure out what that percentage will be based on your new business acquisition and what your strategic initiatives are moving forward, whether you're looking to IPO, looking for acquisition, or just looking to bootstrap and slowly grow over time. Expansion. We should get that smaller commission percentage for that bottom of the funnel where we have detected new opportunities and those customers have been willing enough to spend a little more with us. That would be the smaller percentage relative to sales so that we can also incentivize sales to sign good fit customers that will also do that. And then when we do that successfully, that then drives the CSQL, which then we get the lion's share of the variable compensation, whatever that would be in your organization. And then finally, some sort of bonus. If we can help drive more quality leads coming into the top of the funnel, there is capital there that we should have access to. So in short, what number should customer success hold? It should be a blended number. It's going to be different for everybody, but hopefully that gets your wheels turning on ways that you could look at implementing that in your own organization. Now, when we get ourselves to the revenue table, that opens up the conversation of like people knowing about customer success. I don't remember what that Slido question was, but getting the word out in our organizations, okay? All right, so how may selling affect the relationship with the customer? I get this a lot. I don't want my CSMs to be selling because I don't want the customer to see them as a salesperson. And my rebuttal to that is, if you are not prospecting and forcing things on your customers, if you are passively identifying opportunities, that is a healthy thing for the customer, meaning they have a pain point, a desired outcome that you can help alleviate. It's in their best interest to know that you have a solution for that. And so it's not a matter of tainting the relationship. What it should actually do is align us more closely with our customers. So let's talk through what that would look like. So we'll go back to the framework here, and we can start expanding this. So what do we do in customer success? First and foremost, we need to activate the customers, right? If we look solely at the post-sale activity where we typically live in the organization, first off, we need to get them live. And you want to track time to value, TTV. If you're not tracking that, that's from the moment I, as a prospect, give you a minute of my time, not $1 of my revenue, by the way, because I can't get more time, but I can always make more money. Your customers care a heck of a lot more about their time than they do about their capital. So the moment that I give you a minute for a demo or some sort of exploration up there at the top to when I get compelling business value. That's your time to value clock. And the shorter you can make that, the less perceived friction your customer will have in their onboarding experience. And oh, by the way, onboarding is unequivocally, without a doubt, the most critical stage of the customer's journey. If you have 5 minutes to work on a playbook, make it onboarding. If you have 5 more minutes, make it onboarding. Until you have your onboarding completely dialed in, don't worry about anything else in customer success, because they're the most vulnerable they're ever going to be, and you're afforded the most leverage you're ever going to have because of that vulnerability. We must take advantage of that leverage point and put them off in a successful trajectory, okay? And how we can do that is measuring time to value, and then CES is a customer effort score. You should be executing that survey as they exit onboarding so that you can measure not how we felt the onboarding went, but how they felt it went. It measures their perception of friction through that experience. Because as we onboard customers over and over and over again, we start to think it's pretty easy. I don't know why they don't get it. It's so simple. Well, you've done it 1,000 times. It's brand new to them. And so we need to figure out how they perceive it and then use that to remove any friction points that we discover. All right, so once we get them activated, we get them live, right? And that's not necessarily live with every part of the product, but that's receiving some element of compelling business value. At that point, we move into the optimized stage, where we're actually making sure they don't have any shelfware, and they're using all of the things that they're paying for. If you were the customer, what would you want to know? And what would you want to implement and take advantage of that you're already paying for? So industry best practices, shelfware prevention, probably rolling out additional functionality past onboarding. That's the optimized stage. Once we get that, and that's when they've got their legs under them, right? A lot of times that's about halfway through their first annual contract, where they really feel like they get it. They've been trained, they've deployed, they're seeing value, and they've got their legs. They're in production at that point. We need to do that effectively, and if we do that effectively, as well as the activation stage, that should lead to a renewal. It shouldn't be a question of if, it should be a question of when. So it's all about realized value, though. So here's that formula. Customer success equals the customer's desired outcome plus the customer's desired experience. Well, it's all about their realization of the value. And so we say this in our certification classes at Success Hacker. Equally important to delivering value is demonstrating value. If your customer doesn't know you're doing it, don't do it. And I've got ample stories from my experience where I did that the wrong way, but I'll save that for another day. But we need to make sure that the customer realizes it. And that's where success planning comes into play. And we have a very collaborative approach to our relationship with them, very prescriptive, so that we have zero doubt when it comes to renewal that they have realized that value. And when we do that, that'll lead to the renewal. At that point, and only at that point, could we start detecting for expansion. Don't try to sell me new stuff if I'm not getting all the value or realizing all the value out of what I've already bought, okay? So I like the concept of expansion detection, like an old man on the beach with a metal detector, right? I want my CSMs just kind of sweeping the ground all the time, and they may need some training around opportunity identification, but not objection handling and challenger sale and how to get them to see it our way. That completely misaligns them from that desired outcome, that CO in the middle of that formula. But we do want them to be able to service the customer when it's in their best interest. So opportunity detection throughout the life cycle after renewal could lead to that expansion that we talked about. And then the collaborative selling environments. What are we doing with intention to make them look good, get promoted, be a thought leader, go to meetups, talk about us, all of that, okay? So that's the advocacy piece. That's also the CSQL that we talked about. So how may selling affect the relationship? I believe if you do it correctly, it should be a positive outcome. You should detect, don't hunt, don't farm, detect your expansion opportunities, And then it should create a collaborative selling environment with your customers where they're bringing you those net new customers because you have made their lives so wildly successful, made them so wildly successful. They're so happy. Oh, by the way, happiness, we'll talk about that another time too. Okay, moving on. I'm running out of time. What's the CSQL for us? So for yourself, so this is where I'm having a debate with other leaders in the industry, specifically more back in the States, but I'd love to talk to you guys about it. We talked about this. When we get a customer, they expand, they bring us that customer, that net new lead, we close that deal, collaborative selling environment. That's sort of the industry standard right now for what a CSQL means, but I want us to define what this would mean. What does it mean when now this is a net new customer? Notice it's not renewed, it's not expanded. This is the straight first time through our funnel. Why can we not move up in the funnel, partner with sales to start doing qualification and more importantly at times, disqualification of leads as they're coming in? If we truly know the ICP, like we should, because we live down here in the renewals and churn side of the world, we should be able to help our sales partners align and do a better job of qualifying those leads as they're coming in and identifying, is this a 1, 2, or 3 in our ICP? Is it a stretch lead or is it a perfect customer? And then based on that, we can put them in our segmentation strategy, high, low tech, whatever we're doing, and we can use that to actually affect pricing, service modeling, premium support offerings, and all sorts of things so that we can offset our overhead risk with those customers that we feel aren't going to be quite that perfect fit. So I would love us as an industry to start defining what this would look like and start moving up into the funnel and working with our sales partners in that evaluation stage. So what is a CSQL for you? Well, it's up to you. It could be that advocacy play that I showed. It could be something up in the funnel. It could be a hybrid, be something completely else. But whatever it is, we know way too much about the successful customers and the non-successful ones. We need to unlock that knowledge and experience and take it throughout our enterprises. And then, finally, what is exponential growth? Here's how it all breaks down. Retention, we talked about that. Hang in there, baby. Keep the revenue we got, right? And then detection, expansion. That customer's now a bigger account with us. Okay, that's more revenue. And that, by the way, is the cheapest revenue you'll ever get because you don't have to take them through new onboarding. It's not a new relationship with a new person. Even if you have to teach them a new tool, it's a relationship that you've already built. And so it's going to have the least amount of overhead and effort through that onboarding stage. Create the collaborative selling environments. There's net new revenue as well, where we do have a bit more overhead, but we get a new logo with 1/13 the acquisition cost of traditional marketing top of funnel spend. And then if we can do the qualification and help sales qualify and disqualify and price accordingly and tack on professional services where we know they're going to need it because they're just one of those maybe less technically proficient leads, that we should be able to achieve some bonus structure out of as well. That's all predicated on our understanding of the ICP. And then finally, refining the target of who marketing is actually seeking out. Who we are actually marketing to should be different today than it was a year ago. So when we do that, that leads to exponential growth. In summary, retain it, detect it, collaborate with your customers, create that collaborative selling environment, do some qualification and maybe some disqualification, and then narrow that marketing target at the top of the funnel. So nothing to it, easy. Okay? All right, so let's see. So what's in it for me? First off, I'd challenge you all to commit to carrying a number. Get yourself to the revenue table by being willing to have a quota. Whether it's just retention, hopefully it's more blended in its approach, but commit to making change at your organization to help get the customer success-driven growth engine going. Decide how you're going to do it. Love to talk to you all about that if you would like to. I think we've got time for Q&A as well. And then go and deliver that and execute. I think that's it. How am I doing on time, Peter? How was that?
That was excellent.
Right on time?
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Perfect. It's a miracle.
So, I just love the fact that those of you who have known me for a while, that I come from a sales background, so you imagine which side of the fence I'm on in terms of monetization of CS. That's to say that people don't often agree with me. That's good. So let's just go through some of these questions. So how do you accurately track customer success qualified leads for customers refer in their own network?
Well, it's going to be similar to however you track your marketing qualified leads and any outbounder. It's frankly just an inbound lead. So however you can do that from a lead source perspective is what you would do. You would basically have a CSQL lead source.
Okay. Pre-sales and CS overlap if you're advocating CS move higher into the pre-signature funnel.
Well, that's a good question. And again, all to be determined, right? And it's going to be relative to your organization. That could be a specific role that is navigating that evaluation, working with the sales team. Or it could be your CSMs. It's probably going to depend on the size of your organization and complexity, maturity, et cetera. But how they would overlap is in conjunction. Even if I'm going to be a CSM, I would love to get engaged with my customer as quickly as possible. There's two advantages to that. I get to start building a relationship even when they're still working with sales. So that handoff, when we get to onboarding, that relationship transition from sales to implementation, customer success, whoever is bringing them on board, is going to be smoother because it's longer. I like to use the term of a handshake, and it just creates less friction with your customer if they already know you before they've even become a true signed up customer, okay? So that's going to be one, and then the other one is to just help save that capital and actually be able to price it if we need to tack on some professional services or a premium support offering, something like that, so that we can offset the overhead because we know that this customer is a stretch versus this is one that's right down the middle and we know they're an ICP one.
Let's just take one last question. So I guess, yeah, if the CS variable should be part of the renewal, expansion, CS qualified leads. So if that's part of their variable, then who should be leading the renewal and the upsell? It's the top one.
Oh, we're up the top, okay. I was like, what are you on? CS variable part should be a mix of the renewal expansion. Who should from your lead the renewal upsell discussions? You know, again, from a detection and opportunity identification perspective, that should be the customer success manager because we're working with that customer every day. And sales should be out finding us net new customers and closing those and doing that hunter function in the org. But then once we realize, hey, we can help with that, that's where it would depend again on your organization. If you have a more sales backgrounded CS team and they have those skill sets to help close that, great, maybe they do it. Or maybe they just transition it back into sales. But again, if you have that handshake between sales and CS, it's not going to be passing the customer back and forth. It's just going to be moving them through different stages of various journeys across your product lines, which alleviate their pain points and their desired outcomes.
Fantastic, Aaron. Thank you very much. That's fantastic.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.